Ladies and gentlemen, the Kevin Harvick Appreciation Tour rolls on. I don't care what you know about math. I'm going to tell you 5 for 4 is a real thing. Welcome to the C&J Speedway Review. Once again, back on a Wednesday night. My name is Chris Burns from the Loki and Jabroni Show. You can catch us Tuesday nights on Facebook Live and Wednesday audio only wherever you steal your favorite podcast from. Across the screen from me, having freshly broke out of prison, and yes, he is still chased. His name is Corey Huffnagel. Corey, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty great. And all I could just say was, the prison retreat this past weekend was very powerful, was amazing. And all I could just say is I just want to thank everybody down at Norfolk State Prison or Massachusetts Correction Institute and so forth. And, Chris, you might want to be careful because, I told some of the guys in prison, I advertised the show and they said, oh, we're going to check you out and so forth. And also keep this in mind, I don't mention names because that's confidentiality and so forth because we want to keep it private. But for all the brothers in the prison, I just want to say thank you. And also, I also want to share this out. So there were also a couple of the brothers in our prison that were also Spanish. So without further ado, I also want to, for all the Spanish brothers that are watching, I just want to say, hola, benevito. Let's see. Seguio Mariendo. Gracias por favor. And Dios bendiga.
Okay, now I'm gonna say a sentence in Spanish. It's probably the only sentence I know in Spanish, and I hope it gets a chuckle out of our Spanish-speaking audience. Is Yo tengo dos cojones, uno grande, uno pequeño, and that's all I've got to say about that.
But other than that, what a win for Kevin Harvick, and all I could just say is he's going to be a championship threat in November, without a doubt.
Well, speaking of winning, we drew the name this past Saturday during the Kansas race at the end of Stage 2. And on the video right now with us for this is Krystle Furst. She's from Norwich, Connecticut. She's a mother of 3. She's a wonderful wife to a great guy named Thomas. Krystle, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Now, the funniest thing about you being on tonight and going for this free speed crate is my speed crate for this month came in today, and I want to show you some of the gimmicks I got out of it. It's a summertime package, so I got a fantastic double-sided Kevin Harvick beer holder. Keep it cold. Of course, you got to keep it cold. I got some fantastic polarized sunglasses with a little Kevin Harvick gimmick on the side. That's pretty cool right there. If you're going to go out on the jet ski or on, I don't know, roller coasters, anything that goes fast and your glasses might fall off your face, I got Speed Crate Racing. These are Croakies. I don't know if you guys have ever used these before. I live by these when I go to theme parks around the country, but this one was my favorite. I've looked at these online. I've never actually thought about buying one, and now I don't have to because Speed Crate has come through with this gigantical, big old Kevin Harvick beach towel. I am loving it. And Krystle, this is what could be in your future if you can answer 3 questions about your favorite driver, Kyle Thomas Busch. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Before I get into the questions, did you know that Kyle and Kurt have the same middle name?
No.
Well, I do, and it just makes me believe that their parents are lazy. So here we go. 3 questions, multiple choice. All you have to do is get 2 out of 3.
I'm going to try my
First question.
2 out of 3.
I know. 2 out of 3. First question. In what year did Kyle Busch win Rookie of the Year? Was it 2004, 2005, or 2006?
2005.
2005 is 1,000% correct. Fantastic. You are 1/3 of the way there.
Yay!
Second question. How many career cup wins does Kyle have? 46, 47, or 48?
48. Go big or go home, right?
That is incorrect. The correct answer
Darn.
is 46.
Oh, well. I got one more.
Okay.
One more.
Yes, you do. You know what? Hey, you came out of the box strong. You got a little slump here. Here's where you break through, right here. What team did Kyle start his NASCAR Cup career with? Was it Stewart-Haas Racing, Joe Gibbs, or Hendrick?
Hendricks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner.
Yay!
Won the Speed Crate contest for 2018. Fantastic. Krystle, in the next few days, I'm going to be sending you a message. asking you not personal stuff, but things they can gear the speed crate toward you.
Cool. Thank you.
So thank
You're
you
welcome.
for listening, and tell your friends. Listen, what happens is the speed crates get built sometime between the 1st and the 10th. They get sent out. Mine came in today. They usually come in around the 15th or the 16th of the month. So sometime in the middle of June, a fantastic box is going to show up at your door, full of Kyle Busch goodness. If
Yay!
I said that out loud, Kyle Busch goodness.
Uh-oh. You're in trouble.
I am in trouble. Quick question, as long as we got you here before you go. Kyle Busch has already won 3 races this season. You've got to be excited.
I am very excited. Very.
And I know one of your kids, if I'm remembering correctly, is a Joey Logano fan. Joey Logano has come home with a victory this year.
Yes, Kittery is like in love with him. Loves Joey Logano.
There's something about Joey Logano and his goofy Saved by the Bell screech face that I just can't get behind.
Yeah.
You can't deny talent. And if you check out the show, watch some of the back episodes. I actually do say nice things about Kyle Busch and Joey Logano every now and again.
Every now and I was gonna say every now and again.
You can't deny talent, and part of the thing that we want to do here is keep it family friendly, but you have to acknowledge talent. So not only your talent in guessing the correct answers, but let's give Kyle Busch and Joey Logano a little tip of the hat real quick. Good job by them. Krystle, congratulations.
Thank you.
You basically you took the ball and you ran with it. Fantastic.
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you for being a part of the C&J Speedway Review family. We absolutely love it.
I love it. It's
All right.
fun to watch, and you guys are hilarious,
All right.
and then I have fun.
Absolutely.
Thank
you
you
so much. And once again, Thomas, you're going to be involved in the next contest, whether you like it or not. We're going to get you on camera with all the questions that you never thought you were going to be able to answer.
He'll probably be able to answer all of them. He's pretty smart.
He'd probably answer them before I get the entire question out. But Krystle, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoy the rest of your night, and congratulations once again
Thank
from
you.
all of us here at C&J Speedway Review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, kiddo. Bye.
Bye.
So let's take a few minutes, Corey. I know you wanted to talk about it, and we told you we allotted you 5 minutes. Tell us more about the prison retreat and the work you did going forward.
So I probably want to get this in pretty quick. So on Thursday, it was introduction night, and we had to introduce ourselves. We had to introduce all the people that were going to be running it, and then of course the priests, spiritual directors and so forth and whatsoever. I probably say this, I was gonna say, I thought, the officers were gonna be kind of intimidating at first, but there was this one officer who we've probably made best friends with, and her name was Lieutenant Sutton. So Sutton, if you're watching this right now, I just want to say thank you for getting us through in and out of the prison pretty quick, because I know we had a little bit of a retreat going on, and we had to be on schedule. So thank you for all the work that you do, and everybody down in Norfolk. I'm pretty appreciative very much. And but yeah, all I could just say was, the retreat was, it was very powerful. I'd say around Friday or Saturday, everybody was very spiritual for the most of it. And then of course, I made friends with a couple of the brothers who spoke Spanish, and pretty much enough in my intro. I got to speak a little Spanish word. So if anybody's watching, hola and gracias, and but yeah, so I also advertised about the show because I gave a speech to all the brothers in prison, and everybody was moved by it. It was just amazing. There were some people that came up to me, they said, oh, I can relate to this and this and this and that and so forth whatsoever. And, it's just words just can't describe it. And then we had the lieutenant come in. So there was one time he was telling us the story, and I guess one of the prison officers, he asked him one time, he said, oh, when are we going to let the animal out of the cell, whatever. So he fires back.
The animal?
Yeah. So
Lord.
I think that's what he said. I'm not really sure. So that he fires back and he says, don't call them animals. They're humans just like us. So instead, call them brothers. And
There you
that's
go.
what I always call them now. I call them brothers behind the prison walls, and I don't call them inmates. I don't call them, prisoners or anything. I call them brothers behind the walls. And all I could just say after Sunday, after the weekend was over, I just said to myself, if I would have the opportunity of doing another prison retreat, I'd love to do one in a heartbeat because, I've yet again, excuse me, it was a great opportunity for me and, to share my faith, not only from me, but from everybody. It was just, truly remarkable.
The most fantastic thing I'm hearing out of this is it's 1000% a humanitarian effort. And like
Yeah.
you said, they're not animals.
No.
People make mistakes all the time. We've all made mistakes. Anybody out there who is perfect and has never made a mistake, feel free to email us. Go to our Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Tell me how perfect you are. There's a river not far from my house. I'd love to see you walk across it because nobody's perfect. We all live,
Right.
we all learn, we all make mistakes, and we move forward. What you're doing, what you did this past weekend, and what you're probably going to do again from the sounds of it, is an incredible humanitarian effort. And I applaud you. I tip my cap. Fantastic. Again, I said it a couple weeks ago, and I'll say it again. For what we do here, I have this feeling that I'm semi-religious. You're very religious. Some are, some aren't. There's a reason God put us 2 seats away from each other in New Hampshire this past summer. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. And also one other story I want to mention this. So there was this one person that was sitting at our table during the whole weekend and so forth, and of course I did mention that I was a big NASCAR fan, and I had the show and whatnot. Next thing you know, I heard Jimmy Johnson all day, and sure enough there was this one brother in our prison that was a Jimmy Johnson fan. And I thought, oh Lord, won't Chris be enjoyed by this?
All right, listen. I've said it before and I say it again. Who you root for, how you root for them, I don't care. Yeah. I don't dog you. It's all laundry, right, baby. I'm wearing a Kevin Harvick hat. Does that make me a bad guy? No. If you look at it that way, it's just a really bad way to look at it. If you look at it as like my friend Skip Perry, there's a really cool guy who I enjoy hanging out with. Unfortunately, he's a Jimmy Johnson fan. You get past it. You do some really good-natured ribbing, jokes, little things on the sly. We all watched a Dover race together, and there was a time where Johnson was in the back of the pack, and Skip was hot. And he was like, "Oh, Jimmy got to get to the front. Jimmy got to get to the front." And I says, "Well, Jimmy Johnson does enjoy coming from behind," and the whole room exploded. It's fun jokes like that. Yeah, I know. It's an old Jeff Gordon joke in my book, but you can interchange it. But that's that fun-natured, good-hearted ribbing that you can do with your friends, especially in a sporting event when you all know, hey, these are quality people that you can make those jokes with. And to that brother in the prison who's a Jimmy Johnson fan, I don't hate you, my man. I just hate the fact that you like Jimmy Johnson. And you still haven't taken that gimmick off your wall. You are really killing me right now.
Still a work in progress, I can just tell you that.
Well, let's move along. I talked to you a little bit before we went hot, and I really think it's something we should cover. Let's take maybe 3-4 minutes about it. A lot of the NASCAR fan pages on Facebook and a lot of the discussion groups online are saying that because Harvick has won 5 and Kyle Busch has won 3, basically they've won 66% of the races this year in the first 12, that it's boring. And here comes my favorite quote. NASCAR should let somebody else win. Okay, snowflake statement. You don't let somebody win. These are competitors. You want to beat them? Get out there and drive past them. What do you think about these statements?
Well, of course, there's that whole thing where, where there's a team that doesn't take team orders whatsoever. Like, for instance, if I was Hendrick Motorsports and I would say, I want William Byron to win the race. I want you to finish second behind him and so forth. But, if NASCAR would have done that, it would have just taken the whole perplexity away whatsoever. But, you look at Kevin Harvick right now and, there's just no doubt in my mind that, he's going to be a championship threat, when it comes to, at Homestead in November. But you just look at that team this year, not only him, but the whole entire Stewart Haas racing team. Like, this is pretty much their second year driving for Fords. And the first time last year, they were trying to get the whole, manufacturer gig, together. And, of course, in June, Harvick ends up winning at Sonoma. And then you had him winning again at Texas and so forth. Now, this year, they end up winning 6 races. Clint Boyer wins at Martinsville, and Kevin Harvick wins 5. So you just think to yourself, I really think, they literally could be the next Hendrick Motorsports, in my opinion, because they've won 2 championships and they've won multiple races. They won the Daytona 500 with Kurt Busch, and of course Stewart being the first owner to win the 500, even though he hasn't won it as a driver. But go back to when Hendrick Motorsports used to win all the races from I'd say from the mid 90s all the way to 2016.
Sure.
That pretty much got everybody saying Hendrick wins all the time. It's pretty much boring and so forth. With Johnson winning, Gordon winning, and everyone else winning races, championships, and ever. Now, without Hendrick Motorsports winning, with Stewart Haas winning, I kind of say to me, I'm not really bored by it whatsoever. I just really want to see a good race. And then of course, whenever there's a few days after the race where, we're not going to talk about the race. We're basically just going to talk about the umpire, making a bad call, on penalties or, whatsoever. That also could take a perplexity away. But I'd probably say you look at Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, I could say that, Harvick's going to win maybe 6 races before, before the start of the playoffs. And then Busch will probably win maybe 5 or maybe 6, going on into the playoffs. And then you'll probably see a tie for a points lead because those 2 guys have the most wins.
I don't doubt that. And one of the things that you brought up was Hendrick dominance. Going from, say, 96 to 2016, that's a 20-year run. I mean, I want you guys to wrap your head around that for a minute.
Yeah.
A 20-year run. You have 4 championships by Gordon, 1 by Labonte, and 7 for Jimmy Johnson. That's 13 championships in 20 years. That only leaves, 7 years where other guys were interspersed. In that time, you had Stewart with 3, Kenseth with 1, Kurt Busch with 1, et cetera. There wasn't a lot of room for other drivers because Hendrick was that dominant. It's not about letting someone else win, and that's the biggest thing I've read is let somebody else win. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And for 20 years, exactly. For 20 years, that was Hendrick Motorsports, and then there was that short spell where it was Gibbs, and now it's Stewart Haas Racing. You want to beat the man? Yeah. Figure out how to beat the man. No more snowflake Schneebitz BS. I'm so trying. I know this is a family show. I've only cussed 3 times in the entire history of this show. But let's be honest. If you want to be that team, you want to knock down Kevin Harvick or Kyle Busch, who right now, like you mentioned, are absolutely 1 and 2, if not interchangeable at any given point in time. You want to knock them down? Figure out how to do it on the track. Don't look for a gimme, because that's just garbage. 100% garbage.
Yeah.
So we had a truck race this weekend, and we both kind of screwed the pooch on our picks, but we are so happy at the result. I know I watched the first 2 stages. Corey, unfortunately, was locked up on a heroin charge or what have you. So let's break down the truck race.
All right. So anyways, so I got home around 5 o'clock from the retreat. So I ended up watching both of the races I DVR'd this past weekend, both the truck race and the cup race and so forth. But yeah, what a win it was for Noah Gragson, and not to mention, KBM finishing 1 and 2. And I just look at this result and I just say, you know what? I knew this kid was going to win. You should have won last weekend at Dover. He should have won probably 3 races this year, because Atlanta, he ran pretty good, kind of faded back. And then Las Vegas, he ran pretty well, not to mention that's his home track. And then, of course, we went to Dover, could have won the race, was battling hard with Johnny Sauter, and then got crashed at the end. Goes into Kansas, starts on the pole, leads 128 out of 167 laps, wins all 3 stages, and of course, winning the race. And not to mention the 18 team is locked into the playoffs when we go to the race in Canada at the start of the playoffs in September, which I am correct if I'm not mistaken. But what a win it
I'm
was for
pretty sure
Noah
you're right.
Gragson. But yes, sir. What a win it was, and I could just say this. I really think this kid is ready to win races without a doubt, and he's going to be a one that I think is going to be a one to watch for when we get to the mile and a halfs this season.
One of the things I noticed when watching, I only watched the first two stages. I don't remember why I had to turn it off. I just know I had to turn it off. Was that Noah Gragson, when he got out front, he was smooth. He
Yeah.
didn't have a worry in the world. But when someone came up on him, when the second place truck and the third place truck started to close the gap, he made his truck 3 lanes wide. He would dip down. He threw some masterful blocks to keep people from passing him. So I saw him win stage 1. He did great. I saw him win stage 2. He did fantastic. I thought to myself when I turned it off, I'm like, this kid's going to win the race. There's no doubt in my mind. So the next day when I wake up and I flip open the gimmick phone and I go to get the results, and there it is. Noah Gragson scores the win. Well deserved because he did everything right. Didn't see the third stage. I'm kind of upset about it. However, to watch what he did in stage 1 and stage 2, I knew in my heart, I can turn this race off and I'm going to predict that he's going to win. Now, he also had Kyle Busch right behind him at the end.
Yeah.
But wasn't really a factor. And, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You put Kyle Busch in anything with 4 wheels, he's going to drive the hell out of it. And he's going to make you work for your supper. He's going to make you work to get that checkered flag because he's not Kyle Busch in little letters. He's Kyle Busch in great big gigantic lighted KISS logo letters. He is Kyle freaking Busch. And if you beat him, you've done something, my friend. Noah Gragson, again, another tip of the hat. What a fantastic victory for that young man.
And let's not to mention, as long as Kyle Busch has 4 wheels on his vehicle, I think he should be in great shape because remember what happened in the truck race at Atlanta where it was that last pit stop and then, of course, the pit crew guy pretty much said, wait a minute, I didn't get the other one on. And then, of course, tire comes off when he comes off of pit road. But, no, I look at Kyle Busch and, just like the fact that, his truck team has just been so dominant the last couple of years. He's won races, he's won championships with a lot of known young talent. And, of course, with Todd Gilliland coming up in the wings. And, by the way, his birthday, I believe, was yesterday. So he officially turned 18.
Happy
so
birthday,
now he's
Todd Gilliland.
So now he's going to be running for Rookie of the Year honors this season. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this kid does, once we get to the mile and a half, the super speedways, and, see if he can end up pulling off a win. And not to mention, I believe, since he only missed a few races this season because he wasn't old enough, let's say like if he wins at Charlotte on Friday, he could clinch himself into the playoffs coming up in September, if I'm not mistaken. But imagine, if Todd ends up winning the race, a few days after he turns 18, that'd be pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And I think that would make him the youngest winner on the Truck Series ever. Yep. I don't have the Google machine in front of me, nor do I want to. Pure speculation. So, Corey, why don't you break down the top 10 and the notables, and we'll go to our picks real quick while you're looking that up. We both picked Kyle Busch as our lock. We all know Kyle Busch finished second. Corey had Stuart Friesen as his sleeper, and I had Matt Crafton. Break it down. Tell us who finished where.
All right, so Kyle Busch ended up finishing second. Stuart Friesen ended up finishing third. John Hunter Nemechek, after starting in the back, finished fourth. Johnny Sauter, top 5. Matt Crafton ended up finishing 6th. Cody Coughlin, 7th, after a great qualifying run. Grant Enfinger, 8th. Brandon Jones, 9th. And Justin Haley rounds up the top 10. And then other notables, we have Bubba Wallace finishing 14th. We have Austin Waitzel, 13th. Bola Mastis, 19th. Jennifer Jo Cobb, which is Jen Jo, 22nd. Joe Nemechek, 30th. And Kevin Donahue in 32nd.
Okay. I'm going to give my happies and sads real quick. It's a no-brainer. Noah Gragson is my happy for the race. Fantastic. It's good to see this kid in victory lane. I know we're going to see him in victory lane probably 2 or 3 more times this season. Yes, mark it down. I said that. I really don't have a sad for this race. All the Truck Series championship competitors ran well. If I had to pick a sad, and if you're going to put a gun to my head, front row Joe Nemechek, that finish just wasn't where Joe wanted to be. It's not where, when I see a guy like Joe Nemechek, who was so good in the trucks, in the Xfinity Series, and at times in the Cup Series, not the finish he wanted for the day.
Yeah, my happy, which pretty much impressed me the most, was definitely had to be Stuart Friesen, because after finishing third at Kansas on Friday night, it just thought to myself, now that Halmer Racing is aligned with GMS Racing, this is going to be one team that I think is going to be a one to watch when we get to the mile and a half this season, because you look at his results. He ends up finishing 6th at Atlanta, 5th at Las Vegas, and then 3rd this past weekend at Kansas. This team is getting close on winning a race, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins anywhere, besides Eldora. Well, even though Eldora, I'm pretty much going to pick him as the favorite, because he knows how to run on the dirt anyway. But you look at his results this past season, so his only worst finish is 27th, which isn't really that bad. I mean, he's only finished in like the top 20 like 3 times this season, but other than that, it's resulted in like top 5s. So my sad moment, I haven't really had like a sad moment in my opinion either. I mean, because if you look at from 10th all the way down to like 32nd, not a lot of like big names, I can probably think of. But if I would have to pick one sad moment, I definitely would have to say Brett Moffitt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why Brett Moffitt?
Well, he started 10th, and I really thought he was going to be a factor because, he won in Atlanta, and he's another one that's also been running good on the mile and a half this season. But, finishing outside the top 15, not really too bad, but I was expecting, Moffitt to be a top 5 contender, right near the end, or if not, could have competed with the KBM trucks because, he already has that one win, and and I think he's going to be another team who also I think is going to be a one to watch for as well, especially for Shiggy Hattori.
There's no doubt in my mind that everything you're saying is true. And,
yeah,
these young guys, really impressive. Watching that truck race for that first 2 stages and watching the young guys, bob and weave and get around a fast Kansas track they were carrying a lot of speed in those trucks. And one thing I dislike about the trucks is that they don't carry a lot of speed. But at Kansas, they seem to find it, man. And I don't know what it was, but they look like rockets out there. So for all those young guys, man, good on you. You did great. Let's break down the points 1 to 8 and then notables, and then we'll move on to the continuation of the Kevin Harvick Appreciation Tour. And Corey is taking his time. All right.
Okay, so we got the point standings. So we look at it. Johnny Sauter, he is the points leader by about 35 over Noah Gragson. Grant Infiger third with about 61. Brett Moffitt fourth with 62. Actually, Brett Moffitt and Ben Rhodes are tied for fourth with 62 points behind. Matt Crafton sixth with about 70 points behind. Stuart Friesen 797 points behind. And Justin Haley has the cutoff point at about 102 points behind the points leader.
So right now, there's really not a clear favorite. Obviously, the leader is everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
So when I think about the top 8 names that you read, there's really not a clear favorite, and the points are really close in that particular division. So it's anybody's ball game, and you want to go in with number 1. You want to go in with the most wins. You want to go in with the most stage points. The more you can collect, the better off you are going to be come September when this whole thing goes hot and the playoffs start. I can't pick a favorite right now. I really can't.
I mean, for me, it's definitely got to be Noah Gragson without a doubt because, you look at his average finish this year, 10.5 comparing to Johnny Sauter, which is a 5.2. But, I just look at it, I really think, when it comes down to November, it's going to come down between the 21 and the 18, in my opinion.
Sure. I'll buy that 1,000%. Now, Moving on to Saturday night, the KC Masterpiece 400, and what a masterpiece it was. Unfortunately, he only led 79 laps. There were a lot of leaders, and I go down the list where, unfortunately, one of the guys that led a lot of laps was Ryan Blaney, who ended up finishing second to last and 37th. But once again, I mentioned it before, and I'm going to say it again. This is getting too easy, guys. The Kevin Harvick Appreciation Tour rolls on as he took home the win in Kansas. A fantastic race. I don't think Kevin Harvick had the best car. Let me say that now. I think Truex had a fantastic ride. I think Eric Jones had a better ride than he thought was underneath him. But when it all comes down to it, with 2 laps to go and you've got Kevin Harvick right behind you and your name is Martin Truex Jr., he should have pulled a Noah Gragson and made that track 3 lanes wide. Unfortunately, what happened, and I know you watched the race on DVR, was that Truex's spotter was telling him, run your line. He wasn't telling him to block. He wasn't telling him to make the racetrack his baby. He was just telling him, run your line. You're good. You're good. You're good. What happens when you just run your line? Harvick's going to find a way around you. And for the 5th time this season, it wasn't a dominant performance. When you look at it, I think he was he might have led the most laps if I'm counting correctly. Can you get that information real quick?
Okay, so apparently Kyle Larson led the most laps at 101.
Kyle, yep, there it is. You're right. I had it right here, and I didn't even see it. So, fantastic day for Kyle Larson too. What did you take away from this race? Let's forget Kevin Harvick. Let's put Kevin Harvick over here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the top 10. I'm seeing Joey Logano, obviously a threat, Martin Truex, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. But I'm seeing names in the top 10 like Eric Jones, Paul Menard, Eric Almirola, guys who are just at that cusp of breaking through that glass ceiling and being serious contenders. I thought it was fantastic. If you go further down, you have Chase Elliott, unfortunately, another bad race for him, but David Reagan, a great run at 13th. What did you take away from this race?
See, I really think the first few laps, it kind of played a little bit of a different role because, like you said earlier, I will agree, Harvick didn't have the best car, but of course he finished second in both stages. But I really thought it was going to come down between Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson because let's be honest, Larson had a really good car.
What a rocket! Oh, my God.
Especially leading the most laps, and if he hadn't had that mishap with Ryan Blaney right near the end, I really think those 2 guys would have battled a shot for the win. And then, of course, that last caution that came out, you had the guys that stayed out on 2 tires or whatever tires, how many laps they were on. And then, of course, you had the guys that pitted, that had the 4 fresher tires, including Harvick. Well, all I could just say this, and by the way, one of my friends, his name is Jeff. And
hi, Jeff.
So I was scrolling down one day, and this is kind of a true story. So I was scrolling down.
Kind of a true story, or it's a real true story?
It's a real true story. So what happened was,
all right.
So I was looking on the post that NASCAR on Fox's Facebook page posts about Kevin Harvick's 5th win of the season. So Jeff ends up commenting saying, "Oh, Harvick pretty much cheated for that win." So I questioned him on that. Monday, I questioned him. I said, "Okay, give me your example, and I'll give you my opinion." So he ended up saying, well, I really think, he passed him on the high side, which is kind of, unfair, whatsoever. So I thought, okay, well, let me break this down. So if you didn't see the last couple of laps right near the end where you had the guys that pitted for 4 tires, and then, of course, Truex and everybody else stayed out on 2 tires, guess what? The guy on 4 tires is going to beat you with 2, and that's what we saw with 2 laps to go on Saturday night. When Kevin Harvick rolled by the 78, guess what? The guy on 4 tires beat him with 2 tires, and there was no way Truex was going to win that race, with how many laps of tires he had and so forth. But you look at this race, again, the Fords, they've just been dominating on the mile and a half, and you look at it, 1 Chevrolet cracked the top 5, and then you have 3 of the Toyotas crack the top 10. So not too bad. I'm happy to see, 1 Chevrolet crack the top 10, but then yet again, I just really wish that, the Camaros could start, dominating. And then, of course, we have to talk about Matt Kenseth. He comes back, thought he was going to have a great qualifying run. Has to start in the back because, he didn't get out of the inspection line in time, and then, has to start in the back. And then, of course, he gets caught up in a wreck right near the end. And so one point in the race where he was running 3 laps down, and I thought to myself, okay, it's not Trevor Bayne, it's not Kenseth. So my opinion is it has to be the car because, let's be honest, the 6 car, I expect them to run pretty good this year, whether if it's either Trevor Bayne or Matt Kenseth. But this is something that Jack Roush has to figure out. He has to figure out at this point, okay, we have to do something with the car. We got to adjust it so then that auto way, we can compete and, run up at the front and lead laps and so forth. Because all I can say now is, I'm glad that, Kenseth's coming back and I'm glad that he's run that 6 car for a couple races. But I can probably just say at this point, they have to figure something out, whether if it's either Bayne or Kenseth.
One of the things that the commentators said, and I don't take a lot of stock in what the Fox commentators say because, with the exception of Jeff Gordon, they're all out to sell themselves.
Yeah,
it's the Darrell Waltrip show, or it's the Larry McReynolds show, or it's this guy or that guy. I think it was Jeff Gordon that said, when Trevor Bayne tells you what's wrong with the car, the guys on the war wagon or the guys in the shop kind of go, oh, all right, it's Trevor Bayne, yada, yada, yada. When Matt Kenseth tells you what's wrong with the car, it means something. That word carries weight. And Matt Kenseth was basically singing the same song. And here's what I'm going to say something nice about Trevor Bayne.
Yeah.
Matt Kenseth was basically repeating everything that Trevor Bayne has been saying for 11 races strong. But now they're listening. Why are they listening? Because it's Matt Kenseth, a former champion, a guy who knows that car inside and out and knows what it takes to get that car to victory lane. He wasn't given the best car. It was great to see Matt Kenseth out there again. I couldn't have been happier to see him out there. It was unfortunate that he came home 36, but I have a feeling the next time we see Matt Kenseth out on that track, that number is going to go up. And the next time after that, it's going to go up. Matt Kenseth is better than this finish. Yes, he got caught up in a wreck, but he wasn't really a factor. And I believe that has to do with the way the cars were fabricated pre-race. And now you have that veteran guy, that Matt Kenseth, saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, fix it.
Yeah.
Now the guys in the shop have their work cut out for them.
And you look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one spot behind the top 10. And all I can just say now is, he's the only Roush Fenway car that's just been running pretty dominant this season and, has had really good runs. I mean, besides the fact he only has 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s, he only has a best finish of 4th so far this year. But, other than that, I really expect to see, Roush Fenway, be back in the winning form this season.
Oh, absolutely. And Stenhouse coming in 11th is not a joke at this track because Kansas is like Michigan. You carry a lot of speed. You have to be perfect. You really have to be perfect. And going back to what you said about Kevin Harvick versus Martin Truex on that last lap, one of the things that has always been pounded into me from the day I started watching racing, and Earnhardt Sr. has said it, Rusty Wallace has said it, Harry Gant has said it, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, on down the line. You can lead all the laps you want. The most important lap to lead is the last lap. Kevin Harvick found a way to do it, and we're going to break down right now the top 10 of the Casey Masterpiece 400. As you already know, let me lift this up. The Kevin Harvick Appreciation Tour rolls on as Kevin Harvick takes home his 5th out of 12 victories. Oh my, that's almost half of the races this season. I'm excited. We'll talk about that in a minute. Martin Truex comes home 2nd, Joey Logano 3rd, Kyle Larson 4th, Denny Hamlin 5th. Paul Menard with a very respectable 6th place. He didn't have a great car, but he knew how to weave through the traffic, and I give a lot of credit to Paul Menard for running a fantastic race. Eric Jones 7th, Kurt Busch 8th, Eric Almirola 9th, and Kyle Busch rounds out the top 10. Other notables, Stenhouse in 11th, Chase Elliott in 12th, Brad Keselowski in 14th. Going down the list, not really a lot. Let's just go all the way down. Matt Kenseth 36th, Ryan Blaney, who led 54 laps, comes home in 37th. Give me your happy and give me your sad.
Yeah, my happy for this race would definitely have to go to We definitely have to go to Paul Menard. I mean, solid run for the 21 team, finishing sixth and, being the affiliate for Team Penske. I really think, I expect a lot of great things out of Paul. And, once we get to Daytona in July, I really think he'll be a one to watch for. My sad would definitely have to be Kyle Larson because, led the most laps, got caught up in that wreck whatsoever with Ryan Blaney with a handful of laps to go. And had that wreck not happened, Larson and Blaney could have battled with the win. And by the way, before we move on, I guess the 42 team got hit with an L1 penalty as of yesterday because of the rear window infraction. So this is the fifth time that a team has been penalized with the rear window infraction. It's happened with Kevin Harvick. It happened with Chase Elliott. It happened with Clint Boyer and Daniel Suarez. So yeah, that's pretty much my sad moment of the 42 team for this week.
All right, so I mean, obviously, everybody watching this and looking at the gimmicks behind me and my hat and my koozie here and my koozie here and everything about it, I could bring out the beach towel, but I'm not going to do it. Everybody's expecting me to say Kevin Harvick. As thrilled as I am that Kevin Harvick won this race, I'm going to piggyback you. Paul Menard is my happy. What a fantastic run for this kid. I know that for a lot of years, people thought that Paul Menard was only out there because Daddy owns a big chain of hardware stores in the Midwest and Daddy paid his way, etc. Paul Menard is really showing me something this season. As a goof, I'll tell you this story. Indianapolis went off when he won in 2011, I believe it was.
Yes.
And my buddy flies out from Indiana. We go to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. His name is Chad Hatfield. We'll talk about him later because really want you to donate some money to Team World Vision. And we're walking around where the trucks are lined up before they had the NASCAR Fanatics Gimmick Village, I call it. All the trucks are lined up. Everybody's buying merchandise. And the loneliest truck of all of them is the one that had Paul Menard gear. And I said to Chad, because Chad's been watching racing just as long as I have. We're only separated by a few years in age. And I said, are there really Paul Menard fans out there? And Chad said, yeah, his mom and about 3 others. And to see Paul Menard break through, he's got a new team with the Wood brothers. He's proving himself that he's just not some rich kid whose daddy funded everything. Fantastic. Good job, Paul Menard. You will find your way to victory lane again. There's nothing more I can say. My sad is definitely Ryan Blaney. He had a really good car, led 54 laps. He looked strong. Like you said, if it had to come down to him and Larson, it would have been, flip a coin, pick one. But it sucks to see Ryan Blaney, who had such a great vehicle underneath him, come home in 37th.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Paul Menard this year, he only has 3 top 10s, so not really too bad, but I expect a lot of big things out of the 21 and definitely expect a lot of big things out of the 12 car this year too.
But when you consider we're a third of the way through the season, 1/3.
Yeah.
12. We got 36 races. This is the time where Paul Menard can take this 6th place finish and build on it. When I look back to his win at Indy, was it because of his talent or was he a victim of circumstance? Was he just right place, right time, got through the traffic, etc., so forth? I'm going to go with the latter. I think he was just a beneficiary of circumstance. I don't think Paul Menard won that race because he was dominant. I think Paul Menard won that race because pit strategy, his team put him to that win. It had nothing to do with Paul Menard working that wheel and getting around that track. But now he's building on something. And in my opinion, you know what? Go out and buy your 21 gear. If you're on the fence about who to root for as a driver, maybe you follow Paul Menard. Get on the ground floor of something, or ground floor as much as you can for 6 years. But hey, anything's possible. Here's your top 10 in points, and then we're going to go actually the top 16, and we're going to get the 4 notables underneath. Kyle Busch still leads the way with 503 points in first place. Joey Logano second with 491. Kevin Harvick with 484 in third. Brad Keselowski in fourth with 396. Kurt Busch fifth with 393. Clint Boyer's in 6th with 386. Denny Hamlin 7th with 380. Martin Truex Jr. is 8th with 376. Ryan Blaney 9th with 365. And rounding out the top 10 is Eric Almirola with 342. Now, we're going to take the next 6 because it's a 16-man field when we go into the playoffs. Kyle Larson is 11th with 336. This bothers me. And I'm going to tell you why. Jimmy Johnson keeps creeping up the ranks. He's in 12th now. I just said Kyle Larson has 336. Jimmy Johnson is 11th with 286. There's a 50-point differential. That's going to be tough to beat. Eric Jones 13th with 285. Alex Bowman 14th with 271. Chase Elliott is 15th with 266. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., unfortunately, is on the bubble with 265. Why is he on the bubble? Because Austin Dillon's in 17th with 241, and he already has a win, which guarantees him a spot in the playoffs. Now, when you look at Chase Elliott and Ricky Stenhouse, they're only separated by 1 point. So now we got to talk about those two. Which one of those two, before I get into the next 3, which one of those two sneaks their way into the playoffs without a win?
Oh, it definitely would have to say Chase Elliott.
See, I was going to go the other way. I think Stenhouse is going to be the guy that if he doesn't get a win, he's going to sneak in on points.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the next 3, we just talked about him. Paul Menard in 18th with 240. William Byron 19th with 229. And the thug, Ryan Newman, in 20th with 225. Again, a great crop. We're looking at a lot of great drivers. We're looking at guys that could sneak in, could possibly steal a win. I hate to say that because when you win a race, you earn it. But they could steal a win easily. Any one of those guys, Menard, Byron, Newman, could easily take one of those advantages like we just talked about with Truex and Harvick. Somebody goes in, takes 2 tires, we're going to get 4. And we're going to get it out there. And when the rubber meets the road, to make a cliched point, we're going to blow by the competition. We're going to take the win.
Yeah.
All right. So we move on. We are going to Charlotte this weekend. For the Cup Series, it's the All-Star race, which means, oh, wait, you know what I forgot to do? My apologies to everybody. We forgot to do the average finish between Corey and Chris. Dun, dun, dun. Does anybody want to guess who lost this battle this week? Raise your hand if your name is Corey. Okay, so Corey picked as his lock, Kevin Harvick came in first. As his sleeper, he picked Ryan Blaney, finished 37th. As his hopeful, he picked Matt Kenseth, which finished 36th. You add those numbers up, it comes up with 74. You divide it by 3, and Corey's average finish this week was 34.333333 ad nauseum, Schnabitz, all the way down. So let's go to my list. As my lock, I picked Matt Kenseth. He finished 36th. As my sleeper, I picked Brad Keselowski. Came home 14th. As my hopeful, I picked Kevin Harvick. He came in first. You add those up, you get a total of 51. You divide that by 3, the average finish is 17. And finally, I end the reign of Corey Huffnagel being the average finish champion of the world. The belt belongs to me. We go to not this weekend, but next weekend at Charlotte when they run for real in the Coca-Cola 600.
Yep.
You're just not happy, are you?
No, I'm happy.
You just can't tip your hat, can you?
Hey, all I can just say is congrats, and I'm not whining or anything, but hey, this is what it is.
I understand. Tell us where we're going this weekend, in what series, and why.
All right, so for this weekend, the Camping World Truck Series North Carolina Education Lottery 200 will be Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. And then, of course, if you have Sirius XM Radio, it is NASCAR Radio Channel 90, which Motor Racing Network.
The voice of NASCAR. Thank you. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
I'll do that. I'll do that every time.
Any race that has MRN, except for PRN, but that's pretty much
PRN
different.
is nice, but MRN is the voice of NASCAR.
Or pretty much this: PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hold the same weight It just doesn't equate. No. You're listening to MRN, the voice of NASCAR.
And home of the Godfather.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it up.
All right. So, anyways, moving on. So, the Truck Series entry list we have is the 02 of Austin Hill. Todd Gilliland, who just turned 18 yesterday, will be in the 4 truck and also will be running for Rookie of the Year honors from now until Homestead in November. Let's see. John Hunter Nemechek is going to be in the 8 truck. Myatt Snyder, the son of Marty, who's going to be in the 13 for.
Oh, wow.
Myatt Snyder is the son of the pit reporter Marty Snyder for Driving for Thorough Motorsports. Brett Moffitt, who is the winner at Atlanta, who is going to be in the 16. Then you have Bo LeMastus in the 17. Noah Gragson coming off his win at Kansas in the 18. Daniel Hemrick is going to be driving in the 20 truck for Young Racing this weekend. Johnny Sauter in the 21. Look for him to be one to beat. Austin Wayne Self, you have Justin Haley, Dalton Sargent, Ben Rhodes. Brandon Jones is going to be in the 46 truck, I believe, for KBM Racing. So I think Kyle Busch is going to have maybe 4 trucks out in the field this weekend. Let's see. Kyle Busch is going to be in the 51 truck, so hopefully he can tie Ron Hornaday's record this weekend. Stuart Friesen in the 52. Let's see. Parker Kligerman is going to be back in the 75. And then you have Joe Nemechek. Matt Crafton, Timothy Peters is going to be in the 92 truck this weekend for Benton Racing. Jesse Little is going to be in the 97 truck. I think he turned 18 already. And then Grant Infinger in the 98. So I'm going to go to my lock and my favorite. And I already have these ones already locked in. So my lock, this one was pretty much a toss-up between the Kyle Busch guys of KB and Noah Gragson. So if I had to pick my lock right now, it's definitely going to be Kyle Busch because you look at it, yes, driving the 51 truck, which is literally my absolute favorite whenever he's out in the field. But you look at Kyle Busch, and, like we've said, over and over, whenever he gets into a truck, there's just no doubt he's going to win the race. And, yeah, sure, could have won the race at Kansas this past weekend at the end and got into, any little, mishaps whatsoever. But, other than that, he had a really good truck to win. But, yeah, Kyle Busch, I'm hoping he ties that record this weekend with Ron Hornaday. And it'd be really cool if he's in victory lane and Ron Hornaday comes in and they have, that banner tied for, 52 wins. That'd be pretty cool, to tie the all-time wins leader in the Truck Series. My sleeper, now you're going to have to take a look at this kid because I have watched him this year. And I have to say, he's going to be a one to watch for, and I think he's going to win a race this year. And he's close on winning. My sleeper this weekend is going to be the 52 of Stuart Friesen.
Again.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, keep an eye out on this kid because whenever we go to the mile and a half, he seems to run in the top 10, top 5 everywhere we go. I could look at Las Vegas back in March. He ends up winning stage 2. And then you look at Kansas this past weekend, he ends up finishing 3rd. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid is close on winning. And I really think he's going to be a threat to win. I probably say this. If he doesn't or does win Eldora, I could probably see him winning maybe 1 or 2 races this season. But other than that, this 52 team has been fun to watch all year.
Fantastic. My lock is I went back to, I think you mentioned Atlanta. And Atlanta's a 1.5-mile track. Charlotte's just a tad bit bigger, at close to 2 miles, not somewhere between 1.5 miles and 2 miles. It's a wide racing surface. And I go back to Atlanta. And my lock is Brett Moffitt. I think Moffitt's going to walk away with this truck victory. My sleeper is going to be Gilliland. I just think this kid is going to just rise up. And like you mentioned, he's about to enter adulthood. And he's going to run for Rookie of the Year. And this could be the track where he shows his stuff to the world and stamps his ticket to either the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series in the future. Not right away, but
no.
If Gilliland can get out there and do his thing, good on him. That's my sleeper is Gilliland.
One other person I forgot to mention when I was going down the entry list was Cody Coughlin. So Cody, forgot to mention you. I know you're the driver for Gallagher, or actually GMS Racing this season. So, yeah, so Coughlin also had a good run at Kansas this past week. But, going back to Gilliland, I mean, yes, this is his first big track of the year that he's going to be running on. Now, I don't expect him to win right away, but if he can pull off the right strategy and if he can win right away, I mean, I'd be surprised. But, yeah, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out on this kid this season, and I think he's going to be fun to watch.
It just seems like this track is suited for the style that he runs. And in watching limited amounts of truck racing this year, I mean, there's been, 6 or 7 races. I've watched 3 or 4. So I've obviously done my homework. Gilliland just looks like he's ready to break through. And if this is the race he does it, fantastic. No better place to do it than at Charlotte. Not quite the World Center of Racing, but the World Center of Racing Junior, if you will.
Absolutely.
All right, so where are we next?
So this weekend is the All-Star race, and I'm just trying to get my whole...
No Xfinity again. This is, we
Nope.
had several weeks where we had no truck racing. Now, this is, I think, the 3rd week in a row we have no Xfinity racing. Kind of a weird little thing that they're doing here. Why break it up?
I think it's a great idea. And so this weekend we have the All-Star race. And I believe the All-Star Open is right before the All-Star race. I want to say it's at like 6 o'clock, which both of the races will be on FS1 this weekend. So you have the All-Star Open at 6.
Are they on Sirius XM Radio?
Sirius XM Radio, channel 90, which will be MRN.
The voice of NASCAR.
That's right. So, yeah, I'm looking at the schedule, and so you have the All-Star Open on Saturday. So that's pretty much the first one of the weekend. So this is going to be the race where, the guys that have yet to win a race all year, pretty much have a chance to get inside the big show. So you'll have probably 3 winners that'll make it in by winning the 3 segments, and then you'll have 1 that'll be in based on the fan vote. So
that's right. Segment racing is now, I get it. Okay.
Stage racing. So you'll have, so pretty much the first 2 stages will be 20 laps, and then will be the 10-lap shootout. And then, again, 3 drivers will make it in based on the stage wins, and then 1 will be voted in on the fan vote. And then the All-Star race, which, you have the drivers that have won based on winning this past season or last season or this season, or, winning the All-Star race, a couple times. So that race will be on 8 o'clock at FS1. So looking at the stages, you have 30 and then 2 20-lap stages and then the 10-lap shootout at the end. So I'm pretty much going to break this down. So my lock this weekend is definitely going to be the Fords. And I really think Kevin Harvick, I think, is going to be the one to win the All-Star race this weekend because, coming off that win at Kansas, another 1.5 miles, I just think right now there's just no sense in stopping this team. And even though it's no points, you just go out for $1 million. I mean, I really think, the Ford team has just been really dominant this year. And I think, he's just going to be the odds-on favorite. So my sleeper, as my computer right now is already yelling at me at this point. It's not loading fast enough.
What? You have the best internet of all 3 of us. You're killing me.
Apparently my computer right now.
Eddie Focus, the producer, is never on screen except to wish Corey happy birthday. So there's 3 of us. There's 3 of us here, guys.
Exactly. So my sleeper this weekend, if I would have to pick one right now, I definitely would have to say the 12 of Ryan Blaney. And I really think this kid can pull it off this weekend. I mean, like I said, he could have won Kansas last weekend, got caught up in that wreck, driving for a great team. I really think, this is going to be the kid that I really think could pull it off this season. If not, could be the All-Star race. So one other notable I want to point out. So Casey Kane is going to be driving a throwback paint scheme of when he drove in the All-Star race back in 2008 when he was with the whole Evernham, team, or Gillette Evernham or whatever Evernham what you call it. So yeah, pretty much looks identical like the car, that he drove back in 2008 when he had the whole like Budweiser paint scheme and whatnot. So that one looked pretty cool. But my favorite one, and this one was really cool. So Matt Kenseth is going to be in the All-Star race, but he is going to be driving. Now listen to this. He's going to be driving a throwback paint scheme of when Mark Martin drove the Valvoline car and won the All-Star race back in 1998.
Oh, gorgeous. That's going to be awesome. Okay.
And wouldn't that be a surprise that car wins?
Wouldn't it be great? But you haven't given me a hopeful yet. You got your lock. You got your sleeper. Give me a hopeful.
Hopeful is going to be Matt Kenseth.
All right, Matt Kenseth. We're putting this down right now. Matt Kenseth. All right. Well, we talk a lot about momentum. We talk a lot about everything, and my lock is going to be your lock. And if you can see it right here, the appreciation tour goes on. It doesn't count toward anything other than $1 million in his pocket. My lock is Kevin Harvick. My sleeper, he's great on the restrictor plate tracks, and I don't necessarily know that Charlotte is a restrictor plate track. I don't think it is, but if there's a place that resembles Talladega Daytona in speed and depth and the way the driving style is, I'm picking Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as my sleeper. I think this could be, again, it's the All-Star race. Anybody has a chance. There's all these little, segmented stage races, shootouts, etc., so forth. And the All-Star race is always fun to watch. But Ricky Stenhouse right now sticks out in my mind as someone who could walk away with $1 million in his pocket and give the double kickstands. I won't do it because it's a family show. To Manica and say, you know what? You're dating a quarterback for a crappy team. You could have stayed with me and everything would have been great. My hopeful is Brad Keselowski. It's a track that he's notoriously good on. I don't know how many wins he has at Charlotte, if any, but he always runs well. So Brad Keselowski is my hopeful in the All-Star race. And again, when we do next week the breakdown of average finish, it actually doesn't mean anything.
No.
It means $1 million. So, if Corey comes home with an average finish of 37th, it happens. If Chris comes home with an average finish of 36, it doesn't matter. This is the All-Star race. This is not going to go toward the grand point total at the end of the season when hopefully I will kick Corey in the rear end with my average finish.
I highly doubt that.
I don't think so either, but it is what it is. Fantastic. Do you have anything you want to talk about real quick, or you just want to go into plugs and go home?
So I just want to go into plugs. So I already advertised my stuff like a million bunch of times, so forth. So I'm going to advertise the C&J Speedway review. So guys, if you haven't checked this out, C&J Speedway review is not only on YouTube and Facebook, but we are also on Twitter. So if you guys tend to look us up, we are at CJ_Speedway. Again, we are at CJ_Speedway. Of course, Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway. So, yes, CJ Speedway. So there's no and or everything else in between because I guess Instagram wouldn't let me do anything creative whatsoever. But so keep watching the show. Keep subscribing to us on YouTube. And Chris, quick question for you. So, best and worst All-Star race moment.
Oh, wow. Best. You know what? I could probably do best and worst in one fell swoop, but I won't. Best All-Star race was 1989. Rusty Wallace getting a little deep into Darrell Waltrip, and Darrell spins and Rusty wins, and I'm a Rusty guy. You guys know this. I don't know if you can see it behind me. But there it is right there. My little Rusty Wallace speed road sign gimmick, Schnappets-Fernum. Big Rusty Wallace fan. Always have been, always will be. Rusty Wallace could push my brother down a flight of stairs, and I'm still going to love him. But easily the most exciting moment in an All-Star race. I really don't have a worst because I look at it as it's an attraction. It's an event. It's not a point race. I really can't tender a worst. I can't.
My best would definitely have to be 1992 and when Davey Allison ended up winning the race, but didn't really celebrate the race afterwards after getting crashed on the outside wall after the race. But the reason why I say that was not only that All-Star racing was exciting, and not only the fact that it was the first ever racetrack to light up, a 1.5 miles, so forth, but that was actually that race that kind of saved the All-Star race, because there was a time where I guess RJ Reynolds kind of said, like, we're not doing the All-Star race anymore because, we're not, you guys aren't promoting anything big or anything whatsoever. So that was when track president at the time, Humpy Wheeler, said, why don't we end up running the race at night? And everybody looked at him like he was crazy. Like, how are you going to do that? Because, you have a 1.5 mile racetrack and you don't have lights around 1.5 mile racetrack. So they ended up getting this lighting company, and, they started doing the project, I think, like, after, like, 91, and it was done, like, right before, like, they went to the All-Star race in 92. And, but the fact that, that it was the first ever 1.5 mile racetrack at night, that was pretty cool. And, the racing was exciting and so forth. I mean, like, for me, like, the worst, yeah, see, that's another tough one, but I'd probably say, like, the worst one would have to be 2001, when, they started the race and they didn't realize that it was raining going into turn one. And then, of course, a lot of the big guys got taken out in a crash. But that was actually the race where, NASCAR said, you know what? Get out your backup cars. You can race them as long as you want, and so forth. And I probably say, like, it's probably something that you're not going to see in the All-Star race ever again. But, if that would have happened, like, let's say, like, if there was like a rainstorm and they didn't know, NASCAR could have done, the same thing like they did a couple of years ago. But that's different rules back then, and, whatsoever. But yeah, you talk about the All-Star race, no points. You go for $1 million. And also with the new rules package that's coming in this weekend, I think you're going to see a lot of, like, close racing. I think you're going to see a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of passing for the lead, just like what we saw in the Xfinity race back in July at Indianapolis. I think we're probably going to see the same results. And, like I said, if NASCAR hits a home run with this, who knows? They might have the same rules package, at a lot of other racetracks this season.
One of the favorite things I love about Charlotte, and I've only been once, that was in 2015, and I'm going to ask Angela to send me the picture that she took of me. I don't know why I walked away from her, but I'm at Charlotte, man. It was bucket list, and I just bent down and I touched the asphalt going in turn one, and it was like, for me, it was spiritual. I'm like, I've watched so many races here. This is special. This is like hallowed ground if you're a race fan. Much like Talladega, much like Daytona. Never been to Talladega. I've been to Daytona a handful of times, but it was special, and I can't say I was in tears, but I was like feeling like the emotion, like, Rusty's won here, Daryl's won here, Dale has won here, all the big names that I grew up watching. This was special, and to think about Charlotte in the way you kind of brought this memory to my mind. To win at Charlotte in any way, shape, or form, All-Star race, Coke 600, or going forward into October now with the Roval, which I had to bring that to Eddie's attention last night. Now we're turning right 3 times a year, Ed. Anybody that can win there, you've basically cemented your legacy. If you can win at Charlotte, you can win anywhere. I say that about Bristol too, because Bristol's that little bull ring. If you can win at Bristol, you can win anywhere. Anybody can win. No offense, anybody can win at Kansas. Anybody can win at New Hampshire. We've seen it. Robbie Gordon won at New Hampshire. Okay, where's Robbie Gordon now? What's the finish on that guy? Gone. But to win at some of these tracks like Daytona, Talladega, Bristol, Charlotte, you're cementing your legacy. So I always look at Charlotte as holy ground for the NASCAR series. Whether you're the trucks, whether you're the Xfinity, and whether you're the Cup, it's just a very special place. And to have walked that track, to have been able to touch the asphalt, to experience that, if you get a chance, take it. I just love Charlotte. And in this particular 2-week period where we have the All-Star race this Saturday and then the Coke 600 the Sunday following, it's a race fan's dream, guys. And again, if you ever get a chance to go to Charlotte, do not hesitate. Go. Enjoy it. The area is beautiful. I love the city of Charlotte. The NASCAR Hall of Fame is there, which I have many pictures from the Hall of Fame. Things that brought me to tears, literally, as I'm standing in front of Hall of Fame pillars where there's Dale Earnhardt, there's Rusty Wallace, there's Richard Petty. There's Richie Evans, who's a fantastic race car driver from our area, who unfortunately we lost too soon. To watch, and that year was the Gordon retirement, in 2015. To walk through the exhibit of all the Gordon cars and all the highlights and whatever. I'm not a Gordon fan. I am probably the least apologetic Gordon hater that you'll ever. Not that I hate him as a person. I kind of hated his smarminess for the first half of his career. And then the second half of his career, he somehow became, let's just be honest, he became Dale Earnhardt. He became Rusty Wallace. He became Harry Gant. He became humble. He understood that I can't win everything. And if I don't win, I got to be humble. I got to congratulate the guy that won. But it brought tears to my eyes because that was it. That was the end of an era when Gordon retired. And somewhere, I'll have to find the picture. I'll share it on the C&J Speeder Review Facebook page, where they had these strips of paper that were about an inch tall and 6 inches wide with a 24 on it, and says, "Write your memory of Jeff Gordon." I'm like, what the hell am I going to write? I almost said it. I almost slipped. So what the hell am I going to write here? So I just wrote, "Dear Jeff Gordon, thank you for 20-some years of great racing. My friends Terry and Chad love you to death. Good luck in your future." I don't know where it went. I don't know if you ever saw it, but I think the world of Jeff Gordon now versus if you asked me this question, if the internet and podcasting and YouTubing were big in 2000, 2001, 2002, when you were like 7 years old. I'm kidding. I would have been cussing Jeff Gordon through the roof. But yeah, Charlotte's holy ground. Never, when you watch a Charlotte race, think that, oh, well, anybody can win. Baloney. You have to be great to win at Charlotte.
Yeah, speaking of Jeff Gordon, I guess when him, Chris Myers, and Darrell Waltrip were standing on the track for the pre-race show, he kind of slipped a little bit of a prediction, about with the whole NASCAR being up for sale and everything. And I guess the guys from NASCAR on Fox were talking about it like before the race started. So hear me out. Jeff Gordon predicts that Disney is going to buy NASCAR.
All right. Okay. Nope. Now the vein is throbbing. Okay. Okay. I'm going to temper what I'm about to say because Disney owns the rights to Star Wars. And they've given us a pretty decent movie in The Force Awakens. Yeah. I have yet to see, was it The Last Jedi? Now they have the Solo movie coming out. They had the Star Wars spin-off, whatever. I can't remember what the name of it is. Rogue One. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Disney has had its hand in some very marketable and successful franchises. And Disney has also dipped their hands into things that they find new and exciting ways to ruin. Stay away from NASCAR. That's all I have to say. I'm not going to go into any histrionics. I'm not going to go into anything else, but please, Disney, stay away from NASCAR. Yeah. The last thing I want to see is the Mickey Mouse 400 or the Pooh and Tigger 500 or the Daytona 500, which is sponsored by Frozen. No. Stay in your wheelhouse. Do not get into the motorsports game.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I'd still say, I'd be very interested to see, what company picks them up, next year or a couple of years down the road. But, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's going to be very interesting. All these, companies, will be interested by it, but we'll just have to see.
Well, are you a fan of mixed martial arts?
I believe I am.
Okay, so UFC, Bellator, you watch it, you like it when you see it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of the UFC. I'm a huge fan of Bellator. One of my great friends is a Bellator fighter. His name is Blair Tugman. He's the Bull Shark. He's actually worn a Loki Jabroni shirt to the ring
Wow.
during a Bellator televised fight. And I love Blair to death. So, Blair, I'm going to tag you in this later. Big ups to you. You're one of my great friends, and I love you. He's got a great new baby, Taylor, and she is the guppy. He's the Bull Shark. She's the guppy. So, whoever bought UFC, I know Zuffa Entertainment owned it for years and years and years, and they just recently sold for billions of dollars. And they're bigger and better and badder than they ever were. Keep Disney out of the running. Bring somebody in like the Chinese company who bought UFC and cater to the fan. That's what you want to do. If you watched the Dover race, if you watched the Kansas race, if you watch a lot of these races, it's not like back in the day where I went to a race in 96 or even 2001 or 1989 where you're butthole to elbow with everybody. You're all sweating bullets and whatever. It was packed.
Yeah.
Now it's like 2/3 full. Find a company that can cater to the fan, can bring the fan back out, give us a reason to reach back into our wallet and hand you our money and say, this is an event that is exciting and is worth watching. Disney is not that company.
Right.
But I wish I knew their names, but the Chinese company that bought UFC for billions of dollars, that is a potential company that could do it. I'll throw another name into the hat, which people may or may not agree with or scoff at. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks,
Yeah.
who is a genius at marketing. Mark Cuban should definitely throw his hat in the ring because Mark Cuban knows how to take, no offense, a crappy basketball team and make them a worldwide phenomenon. And Mark Cuban owns the Access Network. So if you don't have FS1 on your cable system, Access is on your cable system. If Mark Cuban owns NASCAR, now you're going to see it on Access TV. Too many possibilities if you throw Mark Cuban's name into the hat.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I definitely like to see him come in, and I just heard. I just read an article. I guess there was one guy that bought the Panthers for like $2.3 billion dollars. I forget the guy's name, but don't really know that much about him. But I guess it was a lot better than like Diddy or anybody else that was going to buy the Panthers. But yeah. I mean, like I said, like and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Disney owns ESPN, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
ABC,
another one.
ABC Disney
Yeah.
is an ESPN property.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that for years. Funny enough, when my daughter celebrated her first birthday in 2009, my mother, my father, myself, at the time, my mother-in-law, and a bunch of family, we went down to Disney. And strangely enough, you guys have watched the show enough. I always have a hat on. You watch a Loki and Jabroni show, I always have a hat on. You see me out in public, I always have a hat on. That day I didn't wear a hat. It is like 247,000 degrees outside.
Wow.
My eyes are burning. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go into the first gimmick shop I see, and I'm going to buy a hat. And the first thing I see was a Sports Center hat. Sold. I'm a Sports Center guy. I bought the hat. I wore it around, et cetera, so forth. I still have the hat to this day. It's now 10 years later. But I didn't know at the time until I did a little research about a week later that Disney and ABC own ESPN. So it's kind of a funny situation if Disney. Oh wait, now you've just opened up a can of worms that we could probably talk about next week. What some of my favorite memories of NASCAR was on ESPN.
Yes.
Bob Jenkins. Oh my Lord, there's nobody better to call a race than Bob Jenkins.
Without a doubt.
Not that I think Bob Jenkins would ever come back and do it, but ESPN was the first to have that pylon on the left side of the screen showing your top 10. They didn't invent the crawler, but they invented that pylon. ESPN had some of the greatest coverage of all time. Now, your favorite movie is...
Days of Thunder.
Do you remember what he says? What do you know about stock car racing? I've seen it on television. You've seen it on
I've seen it
television?
on
ESPN. The coverage is excellent.
Coverage is excellent. You'd be surprised how much you pick up.
Exactly. And that's
Yes.
what ESPN brought to the table. So, all right, I'm softening my stance. If Disney buys it, but Disney has to take their hands off it and let the sports folks in Bristol, Connecticut, or in Los Angeles, or New York, wherever the main gimmick is now, let the sports people take care of NASCAR.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to take a wrestling term, there was a promotion in the 80s called Jim Crockett Promotions. A very good friend of mine, a former guest on the Logan Jabroni Show, Joe Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal. If you don't know the Road Warriors, look them up. JCP sold to Ted Turner. We obviously all know who Ted Turner is. TBS, TNT, etc., so forth, CNN. And what Ted Turner did was he turned over the business to someone who knew the business. He goes, look, I'll give you the money, run the business. And he took his hands off the wheel. If Disney can do that, if Disney were to buy into NASCAR and let the ESPN folk run it, we're looking at a whole new ball game. We're looking at pack stands again. We're looking at a marketing plan that would work for you and me, the common man, to and if you bowed out of racing years ago because you thought, oh well, Jimmy Johnson wins too much, or Jeff Gordon wins too much, or this guy wins too much, now you have a reason. There's an excitement that comes back to a professional American NASCAR motorsports.
And not to mention, let's say like if Disney buys, NASCAR, you might want to look at the schedule as well because, there could be some tracks that are owned by ISC, go from 2 races to 1 and then, still keep their 2 races whatsoever. And, and quite possibly you might add some new tracks into the mix. Like, for instance, Iowa or, or the road course up in Canada or the road course in Ohio. Think about it. I mean, that could be a whole different scenario, not only to the sport or the business, but also, pretty much the schedule.
What about the track in Mexico where Martin Truex was the first ever NASCAR guy to win on that track?
I believe Formula One races there now, but that could also be a possibility too. But there was also a time where, NASCAR used to race in Mexico from like 2005 to 2008, and then they stopped going there after that because, with Iowa coming in, they pretty much, did that.
What about going back to Japan, to Yokohama, where Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt won back in the 90s?
See, I really think that's a good possibility. I really think NASCAR should kind of take their racing tour-wise. I mean, just think about it. Baseball is going to take their tour to London. Basketball did theirs to London. Football's already done theirs to London. So why not NASCAR? Even though the problem is, around the world, it's mostly Formula One because they race almost everywhere and so forth. But yeah, there was a time where NASCAR used to race in Japan, and that kind of took like a couple of like hours or so like to get there. Not to mention you had to ship all the cars over there too. So I mean, yeah, that could also be a possibility.
Trust me, it's worth the trip. I remember watching those Japan races. Rusty Wallace won the inaugural one. Dale Earnhardt won the next one. There was an excitement about the guys going over to a foreign land and showing the Japanese people, this is what we're all about.
Yeah.
And then you go to Mexico when they ran, I can't remember the name of the track, but Martin Truex takes the first ever race. It was an Xfinity race.
Yep.
Back then it was the Busch Series, Nationwide, Tampax, I don't know. But he wins the first one. You go to Canada. They have a fantastic track up there. Again, I'm going to mention the other podcast, the Logan Jabroni Show. We had a great conversation about motorsports that Corey came in on the tail end of, where I had a friend who chimed in, and he's from Canada, who loves NASCAR. If you could expand it, take some of these races away. Look, Pocono is boring. take a race away from Pocono, throw it to Canada. Another
Yeah.
boring race, in my opinion, and it might be my opinion alone, California is a boring race. Take one away from Auto Club and throw it to Mexico. And, you know, as much as the racing is fantastic in New Hampshire, and they've always had 2 races, unfortunately, is it sustainable? We don't know. What if you took a New Hampshire race and threw it to Japan? Make it a worldwide thing. The thing that NASCAR sells more than anything, and I'm kind of poisoning the well here because I really want you guys to go check out last night's Logan Jabroni show, is NASCAR sells personality, much like the WWE, much like the NFL, much like Major League Baseball. You get emotionally invested with these drivers. There's a reason why I love Rusty Wallace, and you'll hear it if you listen to the Logan Jabroni show from last night. There's a reason why, other than the fact that he got into Dale Earnhardt's car, that I love Kevin Harvick. It came later, but you'll hear it all if you listen to that episode. Get these people around the world invested in this, and then you know what you're going to find? You're going to find that we're going to have IROC is great, but not every circuit throws their drivers into IROC. You're going to find maybe that we talked about it over the winter, perhaps auto racing in the Olympics. You could find yourself with like a world championship of auto racing going forward. NASCAR can open that door because F1's not going to do it. Baja's not going to do it. The IndyCar circuit's not going to do it. Somebody has to be the catalyst. Stop coughing.
Definitely would be so.
All right. On that note, I have nothing to plug other than go check out the Loki Jabroni Show Tuesday nights live on Facebook and Wednesday, wherever you steal your favorite podcasts from. We are changing formats in 2 weeks. You guys are not going to be prepared for this, but I'm glad if you joined the thing. If you are one of the brothers that Corey talked about in prison, go find the Loki Jabroni Show on YouTube, much like you found the C&J Speedway review. Subscribe to the show. We provide alcohol-fueled brutality every single week, and it's fun, it's irreverent, and you know what? We are allowed to cuss on that show, unlike this, which is a family show. But another fantastic week of racing. Corey, thank you so much. You add so much to my love for racing that you're actually making me care about the trucks, the Xfinity, etc. Thank you again.
Thank you as well.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week to break down the trucks and the All-Star race. It's going to be a fun time. And congratulations once again to Krystle Furst from Norwich, Connecticut. She is the inaugural, yes, we're going to do this again next year, the inaugural Speed Crate champion.
Congratulations, Krystle. You deserve it.
And the Kevin Harvick Appreciation Tour continues next week. We are out.
Good night.